Hello and welcome to the Intentional Brief, your weekly video update on the one big thing in cybersecurity for middle market companies, their investors, and management teams. I'm your host, Shay Colson, managing partner at Intentional Cybersecurity, and you can find us online at intentionalcyber.com. Today is Monday, December 15th, 2025, and as we close out the year, we've got a news story that's going to flip the script a little bit for this show. Today, we'll be talking about offensive cyber activity rather than defense, moving over to the red team side. And this is because last week, Bloomberg had a piece detailing a move from the Trump administration to, quote, turn to private businesses to help mount offensive cyber attacks against foreign adversaries, unquote. The reporting notes that, quote, the White House plans to make public its intention to enlist private companies in more aggressive efforts to go after criminal and state-sponsored hackers in a new national cybersecurity strategy, a draft of which has been viewed by industry officials and experts. The strategy is expected to be released by the Office of the National Cyber Director in the coming weeks, unquote. So while it's almost always a defensive cyber talk here on this show, I do think that flipping the script and exploring the offensive side a little bit is worth it because we need to understand what this might mean. Bloomberg notes in their reporting that this proposal, quote, would open lucrative new business opportunities to firms that have traditionally contracted with the government on defensive strategies rather than offensive measures, unquote. So there's obviously some financial incentive here, but offensive cyber operations are very different than defense. We've got challenges with attribution, right? That's hard on the internet. It's definitely hard for anybody without government resources to do that. But we've also got scope and scale challenges to this notion of offense, right? Are we just trying to wreck servers and delete things, or are we trying to launch our own ransom sort of operations where we're also stealing things or gathering and gaining intelligence through these exercises? It's not clear at this stage. So now we have far more questions, of course, than answers. But I remember being on a panel about a decade ago, maybe 12 years ago, where I got a question about hacking back. Why don't we just hack back as a company? And my response then was that if you're good enough to do the hacking back, you're already in the wrong line of business. But that doesn't mean that I want private offensive attacks to be an actual business that we're in the mechanics of doing here in the U.S. I think we're looking at this proposal in a very difficult time in the broader context. There was also a formal research paper last week comparing AI offensive cyber agents to humans in terms of offensive cyber task capabilities. And guess what? The AI outperformed 90% of the human participants. So given our previous conversations around AI hacking, as a reminder that it mostly will just lower the bar and accelerate the rate of attacks rather than bringing something truly novel to the capability set, I think we'd be likely to see that play out again in this new privatized offensive regime as well. And do we think that these nation states or these cyber adversaries won't respond to our offensive things, that they won't hack back, that they won't launch attacks our way as well? This all seems like playing with fire when we already see private U.S. companies in the defense industrial base struggling with the CMMC and complying with that. We're seeing healthcare providers lobbying the administration for less strict cybersecurity requirements under HIPAA. So none of this seems to make much sense to me. And as usual, I would encourage you to continue to focus on fortifying your own businesses, looking at the things that you can control, planning for the risks that you can reasonably foresee, and continuing to make progress on the things that matter to you and your business while we let this play out for at least a little while longer. From a fundraising perspective, we saw $6.3 billion in newly committed capital last week, almost all of which was led by TPG Credit, who raised $6.2 billion for their new third fund. Congrats to the team over there. We also saw some good IPO traffic hit the public markets here in the U.S., indicating that we might be ready for an additional surge in IPO activity in 2026, providing some much needed liquidity to these markets. As a reminder, as we come to the close of this year, you can find links to all the articles we covered in the comments section below. You can find back issues and written transcripts of these videos at intentionalcyber.com, and we will see you next week for another edition of the Intentional Brief.